Hi, I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking, and this time I've been thinking about hobbies and interests. So the reason I've been thinking about hobbies and interests is because I'm at a stage in my life where I think they're going to become much more important if I want to have a fun and fulfilling retirement. But I don't really know where to start. I think I've been so busy with work and children for the last 20 years that I've lost sight of who I really am and what I like doing. So I want to see if I can figure that out and then start putting some plans in place for the future so that I can look forward to the type of retirement that will be a perfect fit for me when I get there. So maybe if you're also at that stage in life, you might want to give some thought to this too. I don't like the idea of getting to retirement and then feeling lost because I don't know what to do instead of going to work. So I want to spend the time between now and then getting myself ready. And if you've seen my other videos about retirement planning, you'll know that I have narrowed down the most important aspects for me of a great retirement to be money, health, hobbies and interests, relationships, and attitude. So I've already made a start on planning my money and health. So now it's time to take a look at hobbies and interests. And just like the other subjects, I want to assess my current situation and then decide what I can put in place now to put me on the right path for the future. So let's get started. So first, let's have a look what we mean by hobbies and interests. So a hobby is said to be an activity that a person engages in for pleasure, relaxation, or personal satisfaction during their free time. Hobbies are voluntary and pursued for enjoyment rather than for work or financial gain. They can encompass a wide range of activities such as sports, arts and crafts, reading, gardening, collecting, or playing musical instruments. Interests, on the other hand, are topics or areas that a person finds engaging or intriguing that may then lead to hobbies or further exploration. So, I think they both sound fun, and I'm excited to think that my future might be full of those types of things instead of work. So, do I already have any hobbies and interests in my life, or am I starting from scratch? So, I think maybe I might be starting from scratch. I do have a few things that might fall into the category of hobbies, but I'm not really sure. I go for a walk every day, and that's important to me for lots of different reasons. I do it for fresh air and exercise, for buying food for dinner, to see other people, but also for pleasure and relaxation. But does that make it a hobby? I guess probably not. I go swimming a couple of times a week in an outdoor pool, which I do for fitness, but also for pleasure and relaxation. I hope to continue doing that into the future, and I think it probably does count as a hobby. I do a lot of thinking, as you might know, and I've often wondered if that counts as a hobby. I guess it doesn't because I don't really give any specific time or structure to it, but maybe if I did, it could count as a hobby. I am trying to channel my thinking into making videos now, so I think that counts as a hobby. It isn't a relaxing hobby, but it is quite satisfying. So I think it counts. I haven't been making videos for very long though, so it doesn't feel like an established hobby yet. I think the only other thing I can think of is that I generally meet some friends for a couple of drinks on a Friday night each week. I do that for pleasure and relaxation, but I'm not sure it counts as a hobby. I think it's probably a social activity. So it probably fits better into the relationships category of retirement planning, which I'm planning to tackle in another video. So I'll pause that one for now. So I'm not really surprised to find out that I don't really have many hobbies in my life currently. It was interesting to try and think about things that might bring me pleasure and relaxation or personal satisfaction, because it made me realise that each hobby or activity might only tick one of those boxes and not all of them. So maybe to have a well-balanced set of hobbies, it might be useful to make sure each of those aspects have been covered. For example, to make sure some of your hobbies are relaxing, some are for pleasure, and some are for personal satisfaction. So maybe that could be one of the keys to feeling happy and fulfilled in retirement. So I think the next thing to do is a bit of soul searching to help me understand what it is that brings me relaxation, pleasure, or personal satisfaction before I can make any decisions about which hobbies and interests I might need in my life. So let's start with relaxation. What is it that makes me feel relaxed? So I like not having time constraints. I like walking in nature. I like listening to music. I like reading. I like enjoying nice scenery. I like things that make the body slow down, like meditation or massage. Um, I think those are the main things that I would do to relax. I'll continue to add to that list as I think of more things. So what brings me pleasure? I like laughing. I like meaningful connections with people. I like live entertainment. I like being creative. I like feeling sunshine on my face. I like buying nice things or eating nice things. I like helping other people. So I think those things all bring me pleasure. And next, what brings me personal satisfaction? So I like making progress or making improvements to life, to home, to anything really. I like getting things finished. I like learning something new. I like overcoming problems or challenges. And I like feeling useful. So that seems like a good start towards getting to know myself and what I enjoy. And it was quite nice spending some time thinking about those things and trying to remember how certain things have made me feel. So now that I've got a starting point, I can start to look for things that might be a good fit for me for hobbies. So it's quite good to see that my daily walks tick quite a few of those boxes. So I think as long as I can continue those into my retirement, it will be a perfect start to each day. I can try to make sure that there aren't as many time constraints as I have now. And maybe if I can walk with someone else sometimes, I could also bring in some meaningful connections, maybe eating some nice food. Yeah, so that sounds nice. Still not sure it's a hobby, but it fits with some of the other criteria. I like the idea of bringing more music and meditation into my life. So I think there'll be some things I can start doing now to bring those into my life, ready to build on in my retirement. I do have a meditation app on my phone that I haven't used for a while, so I can start using that again. I used to just do 10 minutes each evening before going to bed, so I think I'll bring that back and maybe add it to the morning as well, because I think it would actually be a lovely way to start each day. And it's making me wonder if I could turn that into a hobby by maybe finding a class to do some meditation with other people. So I think that could be an interesting one for me to look into. I imagine the sort of people I might meet at a meditation class would probably be quite relaxed and friendly, so that sounds quite appealing. I think I'll see if there are any classes local to me that I might be able to join. So that's meditation. What about music? I would definitely like to bring more music into my life and maybe turn it into a hobby. I'm not very good at having music on while I'm working because it's a bit too distracting for me, so I will need to rule that out. I could listen to music when I go on my walks, but I generally listen to audiobooks or podcasts. But maybe I could make one day a week a music-based walk and see if I enjoy the difference. I could also listen to music while I'm doing jobs in the house rather than just in silence like I do now. I do like silence, but I'll need to give up some of that if I want more music in my life. I like the idea of discovering different types of music that I haven't really experienced yet, so I would like to put some effort into that. So if anyone's got any suggestions for how I could discover different types of music, I'd love to hear them. I do sometimes listen to a show called Desert Island Discs, and I find that's a nice way to get introduced to some different types of music. And there's usually some interesting conversation included in that too. I also like live music, so I have been trying to go to more live music events, and I could make an effort to build on that a bit more. I wonder if there are any clubs based around music appreciation rather than playing music. I could imagine being interested in something like that if it existed. I would also like there to be a bit more creativity in my life, but I'm not quite sure what that might look like. I quite like brainstorming ideas when I'm at work. I think really that's probably been my only creative outlet for a while. I can be a bit of a perfectionist, so that slightly puts me off creating art because I'm never quite good enough to live up to my own standards. I quite like the idea of learning how to write poetry, but I've never done anything about that. I like the idea of trying to get a message across in only a few words or in a humorous way. So I think I'd probably enjoy creative writing or a poetry class maybe. I quite like the idea of creating silly rhyming poems, maybe for greeting cards or something like that. I did actually come up with one when I was planning this video, so I shall read it to you. She posted on YouTube today with things that she wanted to say, but when she pressed record, the people got bored, so she had to call it a day. So there you are. It needs some work, but the enthusiasm's there. So I think that's another one that I'll investigate. Whether there's some classes locally that I could join, or maybe I'll just look for some online resources so that I can test out whether it really is something that I'd like to spend more time on. And I do think it's going to be important to test things out to see whether they do actually bring me the relaxation, pleasure, or personal satisfaction that I hope they might. And so I think that's why it's important to get started sooner rather than later. So I'm pleased to have given some thought to this so that I can have some structure around looking for some hobbies and interests for the future. And I'll keep those 3 headings in my mind, and I'll keep assessing what actually does bring me those things and what doesn't, so that I know how to change my plans and how to make sure that I've got a well-balanced set of hobbies that, are bringing me all the things that I'm hoping for. And I think the more things that I can build up now and fit into my current life, the easier the transition will be when I can start tipping the balance in the other direction, that more of my life is dedicated to hobbies and interests than is dedicated to work. And I really like the idea of making it a gradual transition where I'm testing out what I actually like or don't like, so that I'm really ready, when the time comes, to give more time to my favourite things when I retire, because I'll actually know what my favourite things are. I feel like I'm still only guessing at the moment, so it feels like a good start, and I'm glad to have given some thought to it. So, getting back to the original question, are there some things that I can do now to set myself on the right path for a fun and fulfilling retirement that has the right hobbies and interests for me? So I'd say yes, there are some things I can do now, and it's been useful to really give some thought to what brings me relaxation, pleasure, and personal satisfaction. I know I'll need to revisit that because it's an evolving list, but I'm glad to have made a start and to have come up with some ideas that might be a perfect fit for me. And I'm looking forward to trying some of them out. And it's made me feel even more excited about the prospect of retirement, and that's important to me too. So I hope you've taken something useful from this video, but I think that's all for this time. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time. Bye!